moment that I had been the one that had closed down my connection to the mystical the moment that Daniel died in my arms. And I was like, I'm ready to see again. And as soon as I said yes, I felt Daniel with me. And I was given this understanding. I won't go into to it other than to say I was given this understanding, the purpose of his life, that everything had happened exactly the way that it was supposed to, that everything that the divine had showed me back when I was in college came true, and it unfolded exactly the way that I was told. I just misunderstood it. And but my misunderstanding of it was part of the divine design. It is part of why I turned away from things that I believed in at the time that were not serving me and were holding me back from my authentic self.
Welcome to Winning the Divine Lottery. I'm your host, Amy Dawes. Hi, Marvin.
Hi,
I
Amy.
love you so much. Okay,
I love you.
I need to do a little bit of an introduction here,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you just hold a special place in my heart. And I know you know this, but for all our listeners, why that is. And I'm not even going to go into the whole story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but since meeting you for the first time, you've been such a gift in my life. And it's interesting to me because what kind of panned out between you and I started in a meditation retreat that we've both gone to
Mm-hmm.
and ended up in another retreat that we were both at. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know you. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that you gave me was the liberation from pain that I had been carrying around my whole entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that for me, speaking for me, that that was the reason that you were planted in my life at that
Mm-hmm.
time
Mm-hmm.
is like something that I will take with me for the rest of my life. That's like one of those things that the gift that keeps on giving, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I could share this story over and over and over again with somebody, and
Yeah.
they too could be liberated or just
Mm-hmm.
inspired by
Mm-hmm.
what I share. So you mean so much to me. You have such a gentle yet edgy, I'll put it
Mm-hmm.
that way, edgy
Mm-hmm.
spirit. And
Yeah,
I just love
sure.
that you're here. And I
Mm.
can't wait for people to get to know who you are and who you're being in the world. So thank you
Mm.
so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I believe that we were supposed to meet, that what transpired between us was supposed to happen, and it came to me. I mean, it started, and I like I won't go into the whole story either, except that it was so clearly the divine to me because I couldn't sleep. Like I was the night before it started, I was it was hours of just being stirred, and I knew that it was this like divine energy stirring me, and it's like, okay, I just need to surrender to this and open my heart, and and it was an edge for me too. It was which the that whole retreat that we were on was definitely me meeting edges and stepping into more authentic expressions of myself. So it was, I mean, it was healing for me too, really. So
Yeah.
we both got healed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I love, right? How you would share that story is probably different than how I would share this story based on,
Mm-hmm.
our history and everything that we brought.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
really the premise of it was yeah, the liberation of energy, the liberation of love. Like I really
Yeah.
truly like it's like a whole illusion just faded away that I'd been living in my entire life. And I was
Yeah.
like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I'm gonna segue here for a second because
Yeah, sure.
I
Go
have to
ahead.
speak to this because for those of you who are only listening to the audio version, you're missing out. I'm just letting you know. Continue to listen to the audio version, but then go back and watch the video because I love Christmas. And this year, for whatever reason, I have been feeling extra magical, extra sparkly. And when I
Mm-hmm.
reached out to Marvin, I asked him if he had a holiday onesie, a Christmas onesie. and he didn't, but he said he would buy one and we would wear them on this podcast
Hmm.
episode. And I love that you played along with me. I love that you
Oh,
said
heck yeah.
yes because I'm all about just be you, like do things outside of the box. Why
Mm.
not? So I, you guys have to see this.
Oh, yeah, you want
Marvin,
me
yours like takes the cake. I'm gonna stand up too, but like really get it. Okay, I'm gonna let you stand up first
to? All right, let me get that. I'm
and
gonna
just
raise the
get
right
it.
there. Like, I don't know. Here we
Ready?
go. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You guys, he's riding Santa's back. I mean, I just have like my Snoopy onesie on. I can't go all the way back because my headphones are on wires, but
I gotcha.
I love it. I love it
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. I'm gonna have to go grocery shopping in this thing.
I was just thinking you should totally go grocery shopping in that and
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
mall.
That needs to happen.
That needs to happen. So let's just bring it right back to where we started with what's in your heart right now? Like, what is it right now in this moment that you
Hmm.
feel is something so incredibly valuable to share with our listeners?
Hmm. Um. Well, so I mean, I'm 52 years old, and I am in this place where it took me a really long time to get here, but I'm in this place of just like it doesn't matter how long it takes to get to where you're getting. It's worth the work that you do, the you know, all of the emotional roller coasters that you go through to get closer to who you really are and your authenticity. And I mean, I've been working on that for I don't know. It's been at least 10 years, I would say, when I just really kind of it started. I think it started with a car accident that I had, and I was in the passenger side, and the car I was in got T-boned, and they rushed me to the hospital, and I blacked out, went unconscious, and um, suffered a traumatic brain injury that and you know at the time of course you think I mean I thought oh God this is terrible. I was a software engineer, and my ability to think was critical for what I did for a living, and my brain function was significantly impacted. It was hard to concentrate. It was hard to like hold a train of thought, and it was a scary time. But the truth is that was the beginning of like a really big turnaround for me, where I stopped tolerating a life that wasn't authentic for me,
Mm.
and and started on a journey towards living more authentically. And so I'm really grateful that I got T-boned and my brain healed. But it was like it came with a lot of fire, because before that I was chronically depressed, like low level depression, but I was like sort of surviving and just being depressed.
Hmm.
And after that brain injury actually turned the temperature up on the depression, where it got so severe that I became suicidal. And that was the catalyst for me to be like, I got to figure out how to be happy. I've got to figure out how, and I'm letting go of all of my preconceived ideas about what's right for me and what's wrong for me and whatever I was taught I should be or shouldn't be, because that whole formula isn't working for me. And it clearly, it brought me to this point of like, I don't want to be here anymore. And so I got to figure out a new strategy for my life. And um, yeah, I mean, uh, I just think we're all come here and we're born with some authentic version of ourselves that is like who we really are. And it almost definitely doesn't just fit right in with who we're supposed to be.
Hmm.
It's probably in some way counterculture. Uh, and your version of what it is might be completely diametrically opposed to what mine is. And that is actually beautiful and perfect. And you should, when like we might completely disagree with each other on some things that you feel really strongly about and I feel really strongly about. And somehow that is perfect. And you should absolutely move in the direction of who you really are at whatever cost. It is totally worth it. And so yeah, and it took me a long time to come to that, but like I said, it doesn't matter. I am grateful that I'm now my compass is pointed towards the most authentic version of myself at all costs, whatever it takes. And um, yeah, I mean, I think that is what I would encourage anybody listening to this who's wrestling with that to be like, just go be you, do you, because there's magic and divine design in who you are.
Yeah.
So do that and be that. Do that for all of us. Be that for all of us because we need who you are supposed to be, not who you were told you were supposed to be, but who you were born to be. And it
Yeah, we
doesn't
can
matter
just
what
end it
anybody
right there,
else.
Marvin.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just pure gold, coming I want to say out of your mouth, but just out of your being. Um, Something that really stood out to me when you were speaking was how what I heard you talking about the shoulds and who I should be and doing all these things as you went through the fire of dropping judgment, of dropping this internal judgment that was probably learned, obviously, from when you were a kid,
Yeah.
through other people's judgments of you. And I think judgment can be one of those things, whether we're internally doing it or somebody else outside of us is doing it, that can really scare us and put us into this place of, oh, I should hold back. Oh, I shouldn't be that way. Oh, don't let my true self shine in this moment, you
Right.
know? And
Right.
we tend to play small. So
Mhm.
I just love that you spoke to that already and being on our authentic selves and what that looks like and what that means. And also because one of the things that you said is be you, even if it doesn't look like the way it looks like for me.
Yeah.
Because something that I've always recognized in nature is diversity.
Mhm.
And we are a part of that. We're not separate
Right.
from that. And
No.
so I think one of the most beautiful things is to be able to look at ourselves and the people around us
Yeah.
in a similar fashion, right? Like we're not
Right.
supposed to be the same.
Right.
We are supposed to
Absolutely.
have that own individual divine design, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's what
Yeah.
makes us beautiful. It's what makes us come to life and this world just be such a dynamic, beautiful place to live in.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the ways that I know I've been thinking about this in recent months, because of course here in the United States, we just had our presidential election and election for all of our federal, state, and whatever. And I mean, it's always a season on social media where people, at least some people, do get very passionate about how they feel. But I think the thing that um, I believe, like as a expression of the divine that we have yet to ascend from is this place where, because I disagree with you, because I disagree with you so passionately, I have to be in an energy of hatred towards you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I mean, it's okay that this person believes this thing and it's totally different than what this person believes. And I mean, like we kind of in the United States, it's like there's red states and blue states, and and I'm like, well, actually, isn't it beautiful and perfect that they're not all the same color? But that, for some people would be offensive to both colors because they're like, yes, it's horrible. It should all be my color. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, it shouldn't. It's, like we are we're all, it's for a reason. There's something beautiful about the dichotomy and the diversity of it, and it's possible for us to find a way to me, like what I've been thinking about lately is, you know how there's this idea in jazz music where somehow they figure a way to take dissonant notes and create this beautiful piece of music with it, even though it's like it feels unnatural the way we listen to it, because it's like, wait, these don't fit together. They're not all,
Yeah.
that the really great jazz musician finds a way to create music with dissonance, and I'm like, what if we figured out how to do that as a in the United States? If we figured out how to do that and in the world, it's like it's okay if you vehemently disagree with me, like what if there's something beautiful
Hmm.
about that? What if
Yeah.
we could still love each other and love the fact that, yeah, each other is not all the same and thinks the same and sees things the same way. So,
And how powerful it is to ask yourself what if questions like that. I think for everybody that's listening, I mean, just the perspective of being able to ask an empowering question using what if, because typically we
mhm,
use what if for, taking us down to a lower vibration, but this really helps to expand our perception. And I
mhm,
love that you use jazz music as a metaphor and a reference because I mean, even I think of Snoop Dogg right now, and how he's made so much different music with like
yeah,
country singers, and
yeah,
he's able to like see what other people can't see and hear what other people can't hear. And I think that's what it takes. It takes being
right,
able to, again, the more we can release the judgment from within, the more
mhm,
we can release it from without. And
mhm,
we stop judging
mhm,
what we're seeing or hearing based on our beliefs and all our filters and our perceptions. And then
mhm,
we can be like, well, what's the possibility here? Instead of going
mhm,
into that hatred energy like you spoke
yeah,
about. I mean,
yeah,
there's so much possibility and potential that exists, whether we have the same beliefs or we have the same likes. I
mhm,
mean, it doesn't matter. And
mhm.
who would want a world full of like the same color of flowers everywhere?
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's not I don't think I don't know. I mean, maybe there are some people that are wired for wanting everything the same, but I mean, I think that like I think in terms of I think you do too, think in terms of story that um a really great story always involves somebody who has their status quo life that isn't fitting them in some way, and they have to make a choice into something that's unknown and different. And that is when they start to live. That is when they start to feel the electricity of something different and getting into the unknown and out of their comfort zone. And they can potentially discover something new about themselves or the world. And they start to feel alive and they become more conscious and not in just this like, program of the same hamster wheel that I'm on every day doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, to me, it's like that becomes possible only if there is diversity and there's different color flowers and it's not all the same flower or not all the same color. It has, in order for you to have that experience, there has to be different. So, so yeah, I mean, and the other thing I was thinking as we were talking about that is how curious it is. The times, at least, that I've seen in my community and in the United States is when people have dropped that like you're that and I'm this and we should be against each other because you see things differently than me. The thing that usually seems to cause people to drop all that and to start to see each other as human beings that are all in this together is like some horrible tragedy, like some major, like in Nashville where I live. I mean, it was years ago, but Nashville went through this this huge flood that flooded like a third of the city, and it flooded that hotel that we both went to see. That hotel, like all those places that we went, the Opryland Hotel was underwater,
Wow.
completely underwater during that flood, and um, and I saw Nashvillians during that time just completely lose all judgment of you're different than me. It just became, how can I help you? Your house just got destroyed. How can I help you? My house just got destroyed. You're a total stranger, and but it's totally okay. You're here to help, and thank you so much for being here. I mean, it was a strangely magical time in Nashville, in spite of the fact that it was such a tragedy that affected all kinds of businesses, all kind of houses. There was just billions of dollars of damage that were done by that flood, and but it brought something out of Nashville that was moving to witness, and it kind of made you like restore your faith in humanity again, because it's like, wow, we're actually capable of like loving across lines that are actually kind of imaginary. I mean, but we make them bigger than they really are. The truth is, we're all in this together. And in those moments, we remember it that we are all this in this together. So, so yeah, I wish it didn't take a tragedy. I don't think it
Yeah.
actually has to be that way. But it does seem like uh, those are the times for me that I've witnessed just really incredible, beautiful acts of kindness across lines and beyond judgment
Hmm.
when when there's like some real hard thing that we go through. So,
Yeah. It's amazing. I love that you used that story because I was thinking the same thing, Marvin, that in its essence, tragedy is a blessing. Not that I would wish it upon anybody,
right.
but because of what it pulls out of people, I think that the way everything works together for the greatest good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that these experiences will keep happening until every single one of us wakes
Mm-hmm.
up to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that yes, we are our own individual piece of the divine, and
Mm-hmm.
yet we are whole.
Mm-hmm.
We are the same. We have that unity and that oneness. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go through a tragedy like that, when you go through loss, every single person experiences the same emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
all that rises from the heart. Like the heart, it's almost like the heart gets broken wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you realize all the love that was inside of you that you didn't know that was there, that you
Mm-hmm.
can ask somebody, like, how can I help you? And when
Mm-hmm.
you said that, I was just like, can you imagine? I like this question too. Can you imagine a world that we lived in where that was a common question
Mm-hmm.
we asked
Mm-hmm.
people, you
Yeah.
know? How
Yeah.
can I help you? How can I
Right.
support you? It would
Right.
it would be so incredibly different. And you also reminded me of being around my dad's bedside when he was passing, and
Mm-hmm.
how even that was, I wouldn't say a tragedy. It was a heartbreaking moment, but also it united our whole family.
Mm-hmm.
So even in a smaller scope,
Yeah.
that happened to bring all of our family back together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the most magical, incredible experiences that I've had in my entire life. And it was
That's
such a
awesome.
blessing. So for him to be able
Mm-hmm.
to give that gift to all of us in a different way was just
Yeah.
incredible.
Man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So beautiful things come out of sometimes the most tra I was gonna say horrific, and then I tried to put that into the word tragedy, and it just didn't come out right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think horrific. I mean, I guess that's a word that like some people might have, but I mean, the truth is the experience, it does feel horrific, It feels, it feels like being stripped of everything. I mean, like whether it's someone that you love that has been there for you your whole life and it's their time to leave and transition, and or it's you lose your house in a fire or a flood or you whatever. there's a horrific element to it, and yet, like, and I mean, I think that come to me that comes back to the like when you start to live is like when you get off that hamster wheel, and whether you're forced because of some experience like that to step into something different. I mean, actually, the experience of that horror, and in the midst of that fire, the emergence of love and receiving and healing. And I mean, that's as much as that's like this emotional roller coaster, and at times it feels like, oh God, I'm dying, and we are. you know it's like there's a new life that comes from it. And so yeah, I mean, some of the hardest, most painful things that have happened for me in my life have ultimately been the greatest gifts that resulted in me shifting in a really powerful way closer to, I guess, coming back to my authentic self. I mean, another like really significant loss for me was, I mean, when I was um this would have been 18, almost 19 years ago now, that my first son died in my arms after he was born. And at the time, and there were a whole lot of reasons why that was really traumatic for me. I mean, it was, losing my son was traumatic, but I mean, I was probably in my 30s at that point,
Mm.
but I had first had a mystical experience foretelling the birth of the son when I was in college. And so I had been carrying Daniel as his name. I had been carrying Daniel in my heart for a decade already. And my wife at the time, I mean, she and I went through infertility and couldn't conceive. And I mean, lots of doctor's visits and lots of different things that we tried to do to get pregnant. And we're looking at adoption and all these things. And the whole time I had this like inside knowing that I was going to have this son, Daniel, because I had such a clear mystical experience in college telling me about this. And so, then when she did get pregnant and we found out it was a boy, I was like, of course. I mean, I've known about this from when I was, early 20s, 19 years old, probably. And he was born and he died in my arms. And I was like, I mean, my experience, my immediate reaction to that, and what I walked through for many years, was I do not trust the mystical at all. Fuck that. I'm never opening my heart to that ever again. And I just closed my heart and my pineal gland, just to the mystical entirely, because I was like, I don't trust it. And how dare you do that to me? And then I was at a Dr. Joe retreat like 2 years ago, and I was a Healy. I was lying there on the floor, and the coherence healing folks came in, and the whole time the divine was just talking to me, and my pineal gland just started to like feel like it was on fire. And I heard the question, "Are you ready to see again?" And I understood in that moment that I had been the one that had closed down my connection to the mystical the moment that Daniel died in my arms. And and I was like, I'm ready to see again. And as soon as I said yes, I felt Daniel with me. And I was given this understanding. I won't go into to it other than to say I was given this understanding, the purpose of his life, that everything had happened exactly the way that it was supposed to, that everything that the divine had showed me back when I was in college came true, and it unfolded exactly the way that I was told. I just misunderstood it. And but my misunderstanding of it was part of the divine design. It is part of why I turned away from things that I believed in at the time that were not serving me and were holding me back from my authentic self. And so that experience and that tragedy actually caused a major shift in my life that helped me put my compass on who I truly was. And I would not have been able to do that had I not gone through that horrible, what felt like a betrayal of, the divine, of, at the time, betraying, like the divine betrayed me. Had I not gone through that experience, I would not have ever, I don't think, found out who I really was and what my relationship with the divine was meant to be. So, you know, I mean, after going through that and having that shift in perspective and understanding about it, it was like, sometimes the most tragic things that happen to us are the greatest gifts and they're for us. And I'd now, having not just heard that and somebody saying that, but experienced that, you
Yeah.
know, have this like deep belief in the truth of it, because it's like, yeah, that happened to me. I went through something really horrible and I was angry at the divine for at least, well, yeah, like 16 years that I was just like, hell no, not interested, don't want anything to do with it. And my heart like slowly kind of it started with yoga and then I found Dr. Joe Dispenza and those were kind of all things that, started to like lead me back to like hearing what I was meant to hear the entire time and it was just the right time
Yeah.
for me to finally get the message. And so yeah, now it's like, okay, my heart is open to and I know that Daniel was a part of it, like he and I had a soul contract to do that together. It was all part of the design. So excuse me. Um, sometimes for me winning the divine lottery it didn't maybe look exactly like what it didn't at all look like what I thought it was going to look like, but I did. Absolutely did. That was a tremendous gift and um that I'm so grateful for now. And at one time I obviously wasn't, but I mean I now see it and understand it and I'm so glad that it happened and I'm humbled that Daniel chose that path to do that with me. Um so I feel so much love from him that he did that with me and to help me. So um and there were other things that were an impact from that, but for me, it was a tremendous gift and a tremendous act of love that he chose to live that short life. And so yeah.
I I love that you shared that. Thank you for your vulnerability and
Yeah.
also even for those people who maybe have never experienced being able to get to the place where they have the understanding that they were meant to have from an experience that was really hard. Um,
Hmm.
by you sharing this, it opens the door of possibility that if somebody else can go through that and come to this place, then that possibility exists for me too. And I
Yeah.
think that's the power in sharing our stories and what we've been through and the wisdom that we have gained from those stories.
Hmm.
And just even listening to Marvin, it's just so beautiful to hear you speak with so much poise
Hmm.
and so much grace.
Hmm.
And it's so beautiful to hear just how your journey has unfolded and how that
Hmm.
was part of what you needed to experience to
Hmm.
bring you to where you are right here in this very
Yeah.
moment. And
Yeah.
I can relate. I've
Hmm.
had similar, moments like that in my life too. But what would you say to people who are listening? I know there's people who are listening that also can relate. But for those who maybe are still seeking to open themselves back up to the divine, to the mystical, to the universe, to God, whatever it means for them,
Hmm.
what would be your invitation to somebody who is maybe a little scared to take that step,
Yeah.
but they're still seeking they're still wanting to be open to it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that the first thing is like it's okay to be scared.
Hmm.
And it's okay for the process of your heart opening to take however long it's going to take. And it's okay for the journey of getting to the opening of your heart to be, not a straight, clear, obvious path. Because I mean, I don't know, it certainly hasn't been that way for me, but I think there's like a beauty and a design and the fact that it has been this like, twisted, turning up hills, down that, valleys journey. Somehow that's perfect. And so, um, I'm in a better place than I was to say and believe that however much you want to have that connectedness to your higher self, the divine, your purpose in life, all of the, everything that is like that fifth dimensional, beyond the veil, beyond our senses, who we really are, however much you want that, the desire of the divine for you is so much more like it is so strong. So like whatever you're seeking is seeking you. Um and so because that's true, it's like in a sense, because I know for me, like I think my whole life there's been this like kind of angst about trying to get there, wherever there was. And there has changed for me over the course of my life. But what I now feel called to is sort of a rest. I mean, like, it's not that I'm not still leaning into whatever it is that I feel like I'm meant to be doing right now, but there's like a call inward inside to rest in the knowing that I'm held and that thing that I yearn for and am like calling in and trying to get to, it is for me. It is by design. It wants, to materialize in my life. I'm meant to. And so, like, there's more at work than just me and my effort to get to it, whatever it is,
Yeah.
than just, yeah, like, there's immensely more, and it's just invisible to my senses. And maybe I experience, little synchronicities here and there, and I do, to kind of be like, oh, there's a little in the realm of my senses. I just saw or experienced something that is like a little, hey, but a lot of it is happening beyond my senses, but it's real and it's there. And yeah, I mean, I think uh and so it's okay if you're struggling in that pursuit of the, whatever your heart is calling you, like it's calling you because it's already there calling you.
Yeah.
And we might feel separate from it because our senses are telling us that story, but we're not actually separate from it. And the desire inside of you is the evidence that you're not actually separate from it. It is already it's already who you are. It's already, and it only, if it feels like it's not, that is an illusion. It is almost, I mean, it's barely real that you're separate from it. And
I have to repeat that though. The desire is evidence that you
mm,
are not separate from it.
hmm
That's a powerful line.
hmm yeah, and it can be, and I mean, and I struggle with it. The compelling illusion that well, I am separate from it because my eyes and my ears and my day-to-day experience and my interpretation of that and the way that I interpreted past experiences are this what for me feels like a massive amount of evidence that I am separate from it.
Hmm.
But and it's okay that all that feels, big and massive to me. But the truth is
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not separate from it. And so I feel like the journey actually is just teaching walking through releasing those stories that I'm separate from it and being and what I'm currently practicing and getting better at and came to a realization that I was not very good at it is just holding grace for myself for where I am right now and the degree to which I'm struggling to and feeling separate, like just loving my, like your friend of mine, Kyra, says, my human. I love the way she says that. I've kind of started to adopt it and just be like, just gonna love my human and its humanness and its like and its tendency to see the world through my senses and through past experience and through my subjective interpretation of past experiences and just be gentle and loving with that part, with that humanness that I'm, embody and living in, as I journey in teaching my body to embody and connect with the truth that I'm not separate from any of what I want. I already am it. And so, um, yeah, it's like a symphony. It's like a composition of the divine. My whole life is this like incredible creation of the divine to unfold that truth that I'm not separate from it. And the things that the dreams in my heart are there because um, they're for me. And so, yeah.
Beautiful.
And the one thing I do want to say, because it kind of would feel unauthentic for me to not include this, is that, um, part of what that looked like for me, the breaking down of everything I thought I was supposed to be, and was these very conservative ideas about sex and sexuality, and authenticity for me has been to just really color outside the lines and be like this open heart and a safe container for others to for their authentic sexuality, whatever that looks like. Because I was at one time, I mean, when I was a teenager, I mean, my life plan was to be a Catholic priest. I was going to be celibate, and it was, at the time I thought that's what I was supposed to do, and it made the people in my life who saw that as like really virtuous really excited that that was like what I thought my life path was going to be. Um, but I mean, I now see that it was, and I'm not saying that anybody who walks that path is doing this, but for me, absolutely what it was I was embodying shame about my sexuality and was desperately trying to escape it. And I thought maybe if I become a Catholic priest and take a vow of celibacy, and actually my plan was that I was going to castrate myself, I was just going to do everything possible that I could come up with to distance myself from my sexuality. It was like so much self hatred and shame. And so, you know, um, and the beauty for me is that I see that who I actually was this really sexual person who, a part of my sexuality was about coloring outside lines, and that the divine made me that way and loved me, and Daniel's part in it, like all of that was orchestrated to for me to live through the peeling away of the layers of this onion of sexual shame, to move closer and closer and closer to this authentic expression of loving my sexual person and loving whoever would come into the container, with me, who they are sexually. And I'm not saying like I have a sexual relationship or even experience with them, although yay for that when that happens. But really it's more just about when they just show me who they are sexually, that one of the gifts that I have is to hold space for that and see them. And and the thing that's so amazing to me about all of that is there was a time when it would have been inconceivable to me to think that the divine would write that story, because I had this idea that like sexuality is over here, spirituality and divinity is over here, and they are polar opposites. And the experience that I'm having is that actually with my life, the divine wanted to write a story about love for sexuality. And so, um, but part of the unfolding of that was me going through these like incredibly painful experiences that caused me to rethink everything, and at one point in my life stand on the bridge and think about ending it all, and all of that was part of that story unfolding. So um so yeah, I mean, and now I'm grateful, now I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, that's a great segue into even you sharing what's birthed recently in your life because of that,
Yeah.
your very own podcast.
Yeah.
So I would love you to just give a little snippet of insight into that and where you're at in the creation process with that
Hmm.
and how much you're enjoying it so far.
So it's called Filthy Little Secrets, which is intended both to be serious and playful in terms of the name of it. Um, but I mean the gist of the podcast is it's just an open invitation to women who want to come and tell their candid personal story about who they are sexually, both their sexual past and experiences that they've had, who they are today sexually, and who they what they're calling in and what they're dreaming of and what they want in their future sexually. And it's in recognition of that there is, I think, a cultural narrative that women should be a certain way or shouldn't be a certain way when it comes to their sexuality. And it's just like asking the question, what is the truth? There's that story out there about women should be this, women shouldn't be that, but who are they actually? And
Mhm.
if you want to come on this show and just open your heart and tell your truth, whatever that looks like. And so it's been amazing because I mean the women who have come forward so far, they're all different. Like every single one of them have just what they want and who they are sexually. It's all beautiful and it's all very sexy, but it's all very different. And I love that. I'm like, I think that I know I came up hearing so many narratives about when it comes to women and sexuality, this is how it is. This is who they are, and it's just that. And anything outside of that, it's only outside of that because they're outside of who they really are. And I'm like, is that really true? So and I think for some women, that story is probably true and authentic for them. And yay. And I love I mean, there was at least one woman that I had an interview with where I feel like they were pretty much in that kind of that narrative. And it was great for them. And I'm like, yes, awesome. Please tell that story. But then there's also, a woman that today who, I mean, she's way outside those lines. And I love that. I'm like, like, thank you for coming and telling that story because you're not the only one. For sure, you're not the only one. And um, yeah, so I mean, it's really just like a no judgment space to just come in and like if you want to, if you feel that kind of call in your heart to be like, okay, I'm gonna come tell my truth, then that's what it is, and I love it. I mean, it for me personally, part of what helped me in my journey to loving my sexual person was the gift of other women in my life who let me see who they were sexually. And a lot of them I didn't have any kind of sexual intimacy with them. It was just the intimacy, the emotional intimacy of seeing each other and them letting me see that part of themselves. And in one way or another, it was they were outside that, thing of this is who they're supposed to be. And I was like, oh God, thank you for because I feel less weird and broken and alone and more like maybe, I'm different and that's okay because you're different and it's okay. Like I don't feel judgment towards you at all. I feel tremendous gratitude that you let me
Yeah.
see you. So, and it was comforting for me and even a little bit healing for me to hear your authentic truth because when they're telling me at the risk of me judging them, but and that was, I think for me, part of why their story was so compelling and so convincing is like they have no reason to do anything here but be, if anything, to hide this from me. And there's no reason for them to like not just, I mean, basically, like, why would it just seems so authentic because they're at so much risk to let me see them. And these women coming on the podcast, there's risk for them that they're choosing And I love that. They're just cheap. They're like, yeah, I want to come tell that because they also recognize that, yeah, there's this taboo and yes, there's this narrative and women shouldn't be that way. And, but you know what? I am, and I'm going to tell my story. So, um, so yeah, I mean, that's the spirit of it. And, I mean, I also write and, but to me, the writing, the podcast, it's all like the heart of it is the same thing. It's just this like, I just have this like love for whatever it looks like as authentic sexuality that's a woman's. I just want the balance of my life to be in service to creating safe spaces for that to, the exploration and the whether it's between the ears or, between the legs or whatever, like the safe space, like for the encouragement and just the blessing of that energy center um in whatever way that I can give my energy to just creating an environment of acceptance and love and celebration of that. That's what I want to do. And so that's the spirit behind the books that I'm, especially now writing, but it's really always been that. I'm just getting, I think, back to writing like completely unfiltered with that as the goal. That's the writing that I'm now doing. I kind of went through a journey of like I started there and then I faced some judgment, which, I mean, now it's like obvious. Of course, you're going to face judgment. What's going to happen? But at the time, I wasn't ready for it. And so I retreated big time and quit writing for like a year. And it took me a long time. And I mean, I was kind of trying to do what other people were doing in my writing because I was scared to be authentic after that first experience. But I'm getting back there in this book that I'm working on now. I mean, it's been a slow process. It feels like I'm like on chapter 3 right now, but this book feels very much like it's getting back towards like what the core part of it of my writing or podcast or whatever I'm creating is about. So and I'm not really I'm teaching myself to be in less of a hurry and trust in the divine timing and just as I'm able working on it and giving my energy to it and doing it as like a labor of love. And I don't even really like the word labor, except there is effort. There's definitely effort. But because it's love, it's like when you love somebody and you're doing something for them, it doesn't feel like a chore. It's like this is just an authentic expression of
Yeah.
love. And the fact that it is requires effort is kind of beautiful because it's like if it's a little bit hard, then it gives me the opportunity to show just how much I love this person. So so yeah. I need to actually take that and like write it and remind myself whenever I'm like, should I write? Yeah, like just
Yeah.
drop back into the real reason you're doing this, which is it's just to love these people, these readers who I know are out there waiting for this book and the books that I'm going to write. I know that we all came here to do this together. I have readers already waiting for me to finish the book. So yeah. Um, so yeah,
I love that,
that's,
Marvin.
uh,
When you speak, you can just like you can just feel love. That's it. That's all it
yeah,
is. Just love.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I love that. I have a question for you though.
yeah,
That you've
sure.
probably heard this question. I ask everybody on my podcast this question. But in
Okay.
this moment, and it could have changed from when you first started this interview with me. Um, in this moment, when you hear winning the divine lottery, what does
Mm,
that mean for you?
mm. I think that it is. There was, I mean, when I definitely started all this work that I've been doing, a lot of it being like Dr. Joe meditation, whatever way, it was like there's something outside of myself that I'm trying to get to, and more what I'm realizing is it's not what's out there, it's what's in here. It's like falling in love with life, falling in love with the life that I am, and whatever happens outside of myself is like a byproduct of that. It's like the icing on the cake, but the cake, the real essence is in here. It's like winning the divine lottery for me would be to fully embody self-love. Like that would be it, you know. And so and like along the lines of, hey, if it's hard, then that's the opportunity to express love. Like it's hard to get to that, and that's beautiful. Like this journey that you and I and everybody listening is on, that's hard. You are worth it.
Mm.
You are worth the hard work that you're doing to learn to love yourself. So the hard work I'm doing, the hard things I'm going through, and I'm going through some hard stuff right now, but like it's worth it, because I'm worth it. And like living my life every day, doing the work and going through the ups and downs and the struggle, that's winning the divine lottery. Is like the like the recognition that I am worth it and the work is worth it. And yeah, I think that's like, yeah, I think that's what it is.
I'm worth it. For all you listeners, you can repeat that over and over and over again. I feel like this is one of those episodes that can be listened to over and over and over again, and some other piece you'll just hear it differently. It will just sink in differently.
Mhm,
It was very, very deep and wise, and at the same time felt like just this huge warm blanket of love and grace. And so for wherever you are in your life right now, give yourself permission to
mhm,
come back to this, to reflect and take everything in. Because I know usually, honestly, Marvin, I don't know if you've listened to some of my episodes, but I'm usually like, yeah, and yeah, and yeah.
mhm.
And all I could do is sit here and be like, you
Uh,
know. But
yeah.
that's your beingness.
Mhm,
You really do. I don't know how much you know this, even though you've shared a little bit about this, but just your beingness, just by being you,
mhm,
you already emanate this safe container, this safe
mhm,
space
mhm,
for everybody to just be in. And they don't actually have to do anything. They can just
mhm,
be in it. And it's so
mhm,
filled with love. And for
mhm,
me, it's eminent because of your journey, because of everything that you've been through.
mhm.
And I just have so much honor and love for you that you
Thank
were able to
you.
bring this to winning the divine lottery. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to say thank you.
Sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and talk with you. And yeah, I mean, I think, for me, the way I experience what you're talking about is like, and it gets deeper all the time, but it's like always been there for me of just like, God, people, uh, they're just so beautiful. And it is such a privilege to sit and witness someone else. If they like open up and let you see them, like what an incredible gift that is. And it's like there's nothing better than the experience of being given that privilege of really seeing somebody. And so for me, it feels, I mean, in a way, kind of selfish. Like my whole podcast, in a way, feels kind of selfish because I'm like, oh, I just don't love this. Like these people coming and opening themselves and so. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why and I'm aware of it at this point that yeah, that I have this ability to create that kind of container for people. But for me, it's like the reason you're feeling that is because God, it's such a gift that you're giving me to let me see you. And you're just, I think, feeling that like here's somebody who is actually, sees how awesome I am. and I get to come forward and be seen and they will appreciate because, it's kind of like, I think it's Brene Brown who said something along the lines of, being careful who you share yourself with because you are worth being. And so like, yeah, I mean, sure, there's people who you shouldn't, or I don't say you shouldn't. I mean, if you share yourself with them, they might not give you that experience of love and acceptance. And so it's okay to take care of yourself and choose who open some of that stuff up to, if that's what you need to do. But um, yeah, I just feel like I'm the lucky one when someone opens up and shows me who they are because it's a gift that they're giving me. So
Well, and
yeah.
today we are the lucky ones.
Uh,
Yes. Thank you so much, Marvin. It's been
you're
an absolute pleasure
welcome.
having you here today.
Absolutely.
I
I've
can't
enjoyed
say it
it too.
enough. I hold so much love for you.
I love you. I'm grateful that we met and we did miracles together, and we
Yeah.
still are.
Yes, we are. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.